Since a lot of subscribers liked the pilot episode, finally here's the second episode of Gaming Wars. A series that looks at gaming, where it came from, how it's changing, and where it's going. As always, let me know what you think down below. The series will eventually end with the current console leaders, Nintendo, Microsoft, and Sony, as well as the state of mobile, computer, and platform gaming. Now, since all successful gaming ecosystems begin with good hardware, this series will mainly focus on consoles, and maybe we'll get into handhelds later. But in this episode, we'll see how Nintendo taught everybody that successful gaming platforms need great games. Sounds simple, right? Well, Atari didn't know that. Use the links below to watch a different episode or just search for Gaming Wars on YouTube, but the best experience comes from clicking these pop-ups from a computer. Most of all, please subscribe with email notifications and follow on Twitter for updates. Let's get started.
Wait, what did I miss in the first episode?
In the 70s and early 80s, Atari dominated the first and second generation console wars and made the greatest console so far, the Atari 2600. For sure, Atari benefited from the arcade frenzy, but instead of focusing on the next console, Atari unsuccessfully tried to get into the computer business. On top of that, some of Atari's best in-house game developers left to do their own thing. Basically, it lost control of its gaming platform and was about to have a bad time. The nail in the coffin came during the North American video game crash of '83. Console gaming revenues collapsed, and everyone was talking about the death of video games in the US.
What? Video games almost died again? Oh no! What happened?
Long story short, the market was flooded with crappy consoles and garbage games. If Atari, the platform owner, couldn't make a good game, it was inevitable that the platform was going to crash.
Your life force is running out.
Then, a small Japanese console single-handedly revived the home video game industry, dominating the third generation of consoles. Nintendo raised the quality of video games to an art form, and started the decline of the arcade industry.
Wait, so how did Nintendo start making video games?
Gaming is in its DNA. Founded in 1889 as a playing card company, it even made toy light guns in the 70s. When it brought these light guns to the arcades, it was hooked.
I got it working! My dad taught me about these.
Here's Wild Gunman.
How do you play this thing?
I'll show you, kid. I'm a crack shot at this.
You mean you have to use your hands? That's like a baby's toy.
Baby's toy.
But Nintendo was small and having trouble competing with Atari in the US. So Shigeru Miyamoto stepped in to save the day. He came up with the radical idea that the storyline must come first, then the programming. In 1981, Nintendo released the Donkey Kong Arcade, and it was an instant hit. After seeing the arcade mania, all the console companies were just throwing money at Nintendo through licensing. For a cool documentary that gamers and non-gamers would like, check out The King of Kong, A Fistful of Quarters. 2 years later, flush with all that Donkey Kong money, Nintendo launched the Famicom, or Family Computer, in its home country, while a small arcade rival called Sega released the SG-1000, its first console, on the exact same day. Despite a few startup hiccups, the Famicom eventually became the best-selling console in Japan by late '84 because it supported hardware-based scrolling, blowing game design wide open, instantly making the single-screen game seem even more weak and boring. Then Nintendo focused on the US. First, it tried to make a deal to release the Famicom under the Atari brand, but bad management at Atari let this deal collapse. Then, at CES, Nintendo publicly announced the most revolutionary console for North America, the Nintendo Entertainment System. But no one was interested. The media called it a miscalculation on Nintendo's part. But they just didn't give up. So in the fall, Nintendo sales reps literally went door to door to toy stores throughout New York City asking to set up displays, and even promising to buy back any unsold inventory. No keynote event, no rumors, just some sales reps practically begging toy stores to carry what would become the greatest console ever.
Well, how did Nintendo eventually rule the gaming world?
Two things. Great marketing, and tight control over its software platform.
That sounds familiar.
For marketing, all the commercials showed the robotic operating buddy and the lightning gun that shipped with the deluxe version, even though they ended up working with just a few games.
Will you be the one to witness the birth of the incredible Nintendo Entertainment System? The one to play with Rob, the extraordinary video robot, batteries not included. He helps you tackle even the toughest challenge. Will you be the first to raise the incredibly accurate Zapper and play games like Duck Hunt or action-packed Hogan's Alley and high-flying Kung Fu, each sold separately? Will you be the one to experience the Nintendo Entertainment System? Comes with Rob, Zapper, Control Deck, 2 controllers, Gyromite, and Duck Hunt.
Also, instead of calling it a console, Nintendo called it an entertainment system. They were marketing it as a toy rather than just another video game console. But the most important thing Nintendo did was control its gaming platform by doing a few things differently. First, the seal of quality signaled to buyers that games and accessories were approved by Nintendo itself. Second, compatible games required a chip supplied only by Nintendo, preventing third parties from creating and selling garbage games. Third, the cover art was a more honest depiction of actual gameplay while others kept using misleading advertising. Last, Nintendo went so far as to make developers sign a contract that forced them to develop games only for the NES. Ultimately, all these things improved the quality of game design and brought back the fun of playing video games.
Whoa. So Nintendo was like Apple in some ways.
Yeah, but it's more like Apple copied Nintendo. These things eventually gave people confidence in the Nintendo gaming ecosystem. And let's not forget the revolutionary 8-directional controller with 2 buttons, establishing a new standard in gaming controls. But at first, it just wasn't growing fast enough. That is, until it was bundled with the second best-selling game in history. And Nintendo got help with national distribution from a popular toy company at the time. And once the hardware got out, great content soon followed. Miyamoto's follow-up masterpiece, The Legend of Zelda, created a new experience that arcades just couldn't compete with. You could build up your character with weapons, explore the world, and save your progress, with the new goal being to complete the story, not hit a high score. Also, Nintendo released Metroid while Konami came out with Castlevania, Capcom introduced Mega Man, and Square Enix, a game development company on the verge of bankruptcy, took one more shot on a game called Final Fantasy. With the home console game market growing again, Sega got another shot with the Master System. It used its reputation as a great arcade company to position the Master System as the superior arcaded home experience, but they still didn't have a flagship game that brought excitement to the Sega platform. Plus, Nintendo had exclusivity contracts on its developers. In '87, Metal Gear was ported to the NES, and in '88, the Nintendo Power magazine came out. In the end, Nintendo won 80% of the global market, Sega squeaked by with 15%, and the dying Atari brand held on to 5%. Building off the success of the NES, Nintendo released the Game Boy, basically creating the mobile gaming market, but let's save that for a different series. So the NES, the most successful console in history, paved the way for one of the most innovative decades in game development, and marked the beginning of the end for arcades. Even though the competition was down and out for the count, the weak and battered Sega was about to compete where Nintendo didn't, launching the 4th generation of 16-bit consoles and creating video games for a maturing gamer audience.
Scorpion wins. Flawless victory fatality.
But Nintendo's secret weapon was ready for the challenge. But we'll save that for the next episode. What was your first console? Any favorite games? Leave a comment below. Stay tuned as we continue the series all the way up to the 7th generation of consoles coming out soon, while highlighting game platforms that are pushing innovation in mobile and social today. To find the best prices for video game stuff, please support the channel by clicking the Amazon links below and saving any good deals to your cart. Also, coming up in Game Wars 2013, I hope to go over how the Nintendo Wii U platform compares to everything that Nintendo has done so far. Thanks for your feedback in every video, and hit that like button if you approve this episode. If you're a new viewer, please like, comment, share, and subscribe with email notifications to join My Next Appliance, where we try to keep up with innovation everywhere, and the companies behind it. You can also follow on Twitter for news and good tech deals.